It comes from the Imam Ali. Now, Imam Ali for the Shia Muslims is like there's Muhammad and there's Imam Ali, just slightly below him. And for a lot of Muslims all over the world, he's considered a huge influence. Now, he's got a book. I don't think he titled it. I hope he didn't title it because it's not the most humble title. It's called The Peak of Eloquence, which is not exactly a humble title, but he has this sermon. It's a collection of a bunch of his sermons, and I think it's Sermon 88, where he says this. This is interesting. This is a Muslim talking. Okay. He says, among the believers, there are three. There are those who worship God to attain his heaven. That is the worship of the merchant. There are those who worship God to avoid his hell. That is the worship of the slave. But there are those who worship God out of gratitude. That is the worship of the free and the noble. And what's interesting about that is in a works-based system like Islam, you're either a merchant or you're a slave. Because you're trying to earn something. And then at some point you become a slave even to your own pride. Like, give me, you owe it to me. Which is what Paul talks about, is that no one should be able to boast from this. And so there's this, I think, this inherent recognition, as fallen as the recognition is, there is a recognition that we need to understand a spiritual discipline or a spiritual reality that is rooted in an idea that you can't earn it because it'll lead to slavery or sort of a merchant form of worship. But a free and noble worship is not a worship that's born of pride, of pride in your own freedom, of your own nobility, but in gratitude. So I really appreciate what you have to say there, because I can see that universally speaking as well. And the other thing that comes to mind is a quote by John Lennox. I remember, John Lennox, the mathematician and Bible teacher. He had this way about him where he could do these couplings and they just pop off of his mouth like going out of style. I remember him doing a talk and he was doing a Q&A with some people in a very closed setting. So it wasn't a big stage thing. And he's to a bunch of apologists and people who were looking to do something with their apologetics in various forms of ministry. And he said, we are encouraged to use our mind and trust God. And the temptation of apologetics is to do the opposite, is to trust our mind and use God. And that way God becomes the hustle. And I think that's something that all of us, I don't know if you're an apologist. I don't know if you're a minister at a church. I don't know what the deal is with you in your Christian walk or your non-Christian walk, because a lot of non-Christians will tune in. I think there's some wisdom there into you trusting your mind more than you ought, and using God as a dodge or a hustle without realizing it. That's why, and not to brag about the ministry, but one of the things we try to strive for is to build a kingdom, not castles, and uphold people, not platforms. Because if you go for platform, you'll crush people. If you go for people, God will give you whatever platform is necessary to not destroy you, as long as you keep those things in check. So, yeah.